But let's make a tier list, okay? Honestly, I'll be very honest. Even if they nerfed Briar, it's still broken, okay? Like in low elo, it doesn't matter. Like the Warwick nerf, which is like, look, Warwick. It's attack speed growth. Who cares? It's still giga balanced. As well, regarding Volibear, right? They nerfed 5% AP ratio. Think about this. Volibear, let's say, buys 100 AP, is 5 less damage on E and passive. On the passive, it matters a bit more, but on E, it doesn't matter. It's still like a stat check champion. So Volibear is still super strong. Volibear is still like super highly rated. So well, still in S tier. As for the Briar, I'll be honest, I would say Briar got probably hit hardest out of every single champion, considering that they actually made 7 passive stacks to 5, which is actually a lot of damage lost, by the way. So I'm gonna put Briar on a bit more on the right side. Left to right matters, by the way. So generally speaking, in my books, these are pretty much the strongest champions in low elo. Just so you know, Trundle's actually untouched, so I would even put Trundle a bit higher than the others. So as for the S plus best champions, these are for sure really OP in Iron, Silver, Bronze, easily. We can even say Gold, honestly, but above that, it gets a bit worse. I think Volibear, Trundle still very solid, but these two I would not recommend if you want to pick them up long term. But yeah, these are pretty much my S tier champions. As for A tier, well, Udir's up there. Oh, actually, Diana. We should put Diana. Diana got a big buff. I'll be very honest. I think Diana is a champion you should look to pick up, because this champion is like, actually in all elos, I would say it's actually pretty strong. I'll put it actually like this maybe. Volibear, Diana, strong. Trundle, Warwick, Briar are like this. This is actually how I would rate it, but only if you go Leandris, Riftmaker in lower elos. And I think these are the 5 champions I'll put S tier. Nothing else. Anyway, let's finish the A tier, okay? Okay, Wukong got hit pretty hard. And in low elo especially, some people don't even know how to do Wukong combo. I would put Wukong still quite strong. But I would put him on, like, I would say A tier, I guess. I think A tier, because the clear got so much worse than before. Look, 5% less. W's lower cooldown. Clone deals less damage. The E deals less damage. And the clear already isn't good. So I'm personally thinking the champ is strong, but not like A+. It's still very solid though, but they just nerfed so much in my books. Oh, okay. Mundo is definitely, sorry, not that one. Mundo is definitely A+ still, especially in Platinum and below. And as well, Pantheon. Like, where would I put Pantheon? I would say Pantheon is A tier. Do you see how they buffed Pantheon? This was first 0.9, it's now 0.8. So basically they're nerfing him quite a lot, and I'm personally not the biggest fan of Pantheon getting nerfed that much. I would say that in low elo it can still be like A+, but if you check the win rates even right, I don't think it's that high anymore, as it used to be. Pantheon is like a negative win rate still in the new patch, so if it's negative win rate in silver, it says already enough, you know. I don't think it should be B tier, even though good nerf, but it's still pretty decent, you know. But yeah, I mean, currently the data is kind of like little, you see like 200 games, but this is what I expect it to be. And yeah, as for what's the rest on A+, on A+, I would say as well that, okay, Amumu is definitely up there as well. I low-key forgot about this champion. I would say though that Amumu is very solid, but I'm not sure if it's the best champion always. I think personally it's better to play the other champs. I still think it can easily be like right here, if the draft is correct. But in my opinion, these champs are just stat checkers, and especially if you have a good build, they're pretty solid. So depending on how high you are, I'll put it on very solid instead of S+, honestly. It's like S+, A+ is very close, you know, but yeah. And as for the other champions, well, Musty, I'll put it A tier. Nocturne, very solid. And you might be wondering, why is Nocturne very solid? It's simply because this champion, well, guess what? It's untouched, very strong 1v1, people still perma-die, but I wouldn't say it's the best champions because it doesn't beat the S+ champions 1v1. So usually you want to actually play fights a lot, and the S+ champions are pretty good for that. As for like the other A tiers, I would say as well that Jarvan's like pretty solid, simply because if you play against champions that are immobile, you just press EQR, but the problem is that it actually requires you to land your combo, and in lower elo sometimes people might miss it, and then your champion becomes useless. Or if you don't count the numbers properly, you have a man disadvantage, it's pretty cooked as well. So that's why I put it A and not A+, because it's not like as you know, super OP 1v1 champion. And yeah, as for like the other champions, I would say Kayn is very solid. I don't think it's as good as the other champs in A+, but I would say it's very solid, you know, especially in lower elo. But I would not rate it like that insanely high. I would say though Shyvana is actually very solid. Simply because Shyvana is quite tanky if you go Spirit of Shojin and Leandris, and it's actually pretty good as well in 1v1s. So I would put him A+. And what else is there? I would say that Kaza is really bad. I'm just gonna try to finish A+ and A first. Okay, Mordekaiser, actually, ironically, this champ is very underrated. This is a champion not many people play, but I'll just show you, I'll just pull up the win rate, okay? Let's just go to a patch. It hasn't been changed, and a lot of Jones are nerfed, okay? I mean, you can see it has really high win rate, simply because the champion actually 1v1 is very strong, and people underestimate the champion. So that's why I put Mordekaiser on like A+, because it's actually a really good stat check champion, and especially if people play melee champions, it's really solid. And people are not that good at kiting, right? So that's why it's A+. And as for Nunu, I mean, Nunu is just solid, right? Like, it's a solid champion, but most champions that are good at S+ are basically good in almost all cases, or like very good, right? These are very solid, and these are basically, actually, these champs always useful and wins most 1v1. Not every single champ, obviously. And this is just solid. This is hard to position / make it hard to make it work. This is kind of how I see it, okay? Poppy as well is like A tier. It's very solid because any single champion that's a bit tanky is just very solid, you know? So that's why Poppy, I put it A tier, not A+, because it can't carry as hard as other champs in A+, but it's good at like countering the enemy team, you know? Same for Olaf is like pretty solid, right? And as for the most of the other champions, honestly, Zyra, actually, this is the only champion I would say is a bit underrated. I would say that Zyra is actually A+, but is not as easy to pull off if you're not that good. But I do know Zyra in general is actually pretty solid as a champion, even in lower elos. Because if people run into you, you're actually quite good. But yeah, I'll just put it solid though, because it does require some skill. Echo, ironically, is one of the few strong AP champions, but also put it at solid. Because Echo, ironically, is actually a lot harder than people think it is. So I'll put it on A, basically. As for the rest of the champions, I'll be honest, I would not put anything on A or A+. I mean, I'll put Viego on A, it's like solid. I wouldn't say it's like insane 1v1. It's very good if you get snowballing and you have a melee support, but let's be real. If you play in lower elos, the chances are that you don't get a melee support. Look in Silver, for example. The top 6, 7, 8, 9... bro, but you can see, right? Like, look where Nautilus, Rel, or Leona is. They're like all the way down. And imagine you're playing Viego in lower elos, not the best. So that's why I put it like A tier. Most people feel like Viego is very good because if you get a kill, it looks like it's 1v9ing, sure, but have you ever seen like a low elo Viego being 60% win rate? No, it's just they have their pop-off games, you know? That's why this champion might feel a bit obnoxious, but it's not that OP. I'll give Rex as well like A, solid ganks, but it falls off, right? And yeah, as for the rest, I think I could mark, okay, Nas as well, lower elo, can be quite solid. Now Fury can be solid, but now, like for real, from this point onwards, I would rate the rest below A, in Platinum and below. So let's start with like, I'm gonna do B and C right now. Don't play this. Ivern and low elo, it's fine. Kinder's hard to make it work. Kiana, not recommended. Jax is actually alright though, but Jax is actually alright. Jax is actually alright of a champion. I would say Vi, no Benno. This champ is getting good at slowly by Riot Games. There's so many better champs than Vi at the moment. Shake as well, no Benno. These ones, no Benno. Remus is like alright. Brent is alright as well. Talon. Honestly, generally speaking, assassins in lower elo are always a bit tricky. They're actually quite hard to pull off. So I would personally put Talon even at... It's not that bad. I'll put a B tier. Zex B tier, Gwen is B tier, Elise B tier, Hecarim's B tier. Fiddlesticks is actually... Ironically, I think Fiddlesticks might be A tier. Why is it A tier? Because yes, people might suck at clearing, but people actually don't know how to play against Fiddlesticks at all. Zek, negative win rate. Where's my boy? I'm actually wondering Fiddlesticks, but Fiddlesticks, generally speaking, is actually quite decent. Unironically. Because if you farm on this champion and have like one good ultimate in a team fight, it's actually decent. I don't know how it's like C+ though. Maybe like in gold was better, but I remember as well, I watched and coached some people in lower elos. The champ seemed pretty solid considering people just don't know how to play against him. But maybe I'm like overrating it a little bit. Fiddlesticks. I mean, it's like B. Okay, maybe I'll put a B tier. I mean, this one also as well, not too sure, but I'll give it like a B tier. Cards B tier as well, bro. In high elo, this champ I would even put close to S. But in lower elo, people just don't know how to position properly. They get caught. And they're not using their tempo. If that's the case with Cartus, you can see it's just very bad. In high elo though, this champ is so disgusting. And Nautilus, honestly, I think this champ is like really bad. They rechanged Nautilus to a jungler, but I think this champ is almost not useful. I played it even myself, I felt like such an NPC. I actually don't even see Nautilus. Okay, it's like, it says B tier on analytics, but I would put a C tier even. I think it's such an NPC champion. Talia B tier. Pretty hard to make it work. Belvet's pretty hard to make it work as well. Maokai's alright, but I'll put it a bit higher. But just generally speaking, tanks with slow clear is not as good in lower elos. Same for Sejuani. Skarner, even maybe no touch. Because you miss your spells, you might even be more useless. Lilia's like on the higher end of B tier. Rengar, trust me, do not touch the champion. Okay, don't play Gragas either. Like, there's so many better champs to play in Gragas. I'll be honest, Graves, I don't know why they nerfed Graves this hard, but it's like, it's even worse than before. I would say don't even play this champion. Evelyn, in the elo is pretty decent. Nearly no touch, at least no touch. But you can see here, in C tier, most of the champions require a bit of skill, and if you're not skilled on those champions, you're cooked. It requires you to land your abilities. And on B tier, even if you miss your spells, you're not as useless. But most of these champs are pretty useless. What the f***? Actually, Kiana is disgusting. I mean, I know in high elo, Kiana is actually really good. So maybe I'm like a bit biased. You can see Kiana win rate is giga OP in high elo. But in silver, let's check gold, okay? It can't be that bad, right? Okay, maybe people really suck at Kiana low elo. It's kind of crazy to me that this champ has lower win rate than Talon. But that's as well my high elo brain thinking. But honestly, I'll still make it B, because it's hard to make it work, but I don't think it's no Benno, you know? But maybe I'm underestimating people when they play Kiana. Maybe I'm underestimating it. Anyway, I had originally B tier, so I'll keep it B tier. But basically, this is my lower elo tier list. And of course, the higher you go, more of these champions can easily be A tier. But the lower you are, the less I would recommend it. But that's basically my tier list for like Platinum and below. And I'll be making as well a higher elo tier list, but that will be on my Discord though.